Remember, how many of you saw the movie, it was called Demolition Man with Wesley Snipes back in the 90s? Yeah, it was a real sci-fi movie that Wesley Snipes gets inserted with a microchip. And it's a new identification that would take place, I think it was like 2012 or whatever it is. And it's a view into the future. Or how about Bourne Identity, Jason Bourne? Yeah? And he gets implanted with this microchip. Now that microchip technology is already here and people already have that microchip in them. But coming back to this new world economic monetary system. This is an article. This happened on the Red Sea coast in Egypt. The heads of state from over 50 developing nations in the world have called for a new world order, tackle fallout from the global economic meltdown to prevent a repeat of such a crisis. So you can see that all the nations of the world are trying to come together to prevent another crisis like this, and that all of this is pushing us to a new world monetary system. Number 5, a lot of the writers during that time, back in the 80s, says we will have a decline in the number of banks. And of course, the 1980s, we saw the savings and loan crisis, and a lot of banks went under. Well, I checked to see how many banks have failed in the last 12 months, just here in the United States, due to this current financial crisis. Now, I'm not suggesting that you take the cash out of your banks and go stick it in your mattress, okay? In the last 12 months, we have seen 75 banks fail in the US alone. Now, at that time, during the 1980s, prophecy writers said that in the future, we will have only 5 major banks because we have too many banks right now. Just the major banks will be functioning, and all the smaller credit unions and other banks will go under. Number 6, we would have a crackdown on cash-only businesses because everybody has to go to this new monetary policy where it's impossible for you to buy or sell unless you have this mark. Now, Obama's plan, a crackdown on tax evasion, came out just a couple months ago. And an article says that Obama's administration calls to hire more than 800 new IRS workers for tax enforcement. So they're going to go after businesses for tax evasion. On KITV News just last week, in Hawaii, the crackdown comes with 6 new cash business investigators. And what they're going to do is they're going to target plate lunch wagons, okay? Can you imagine a plate lunch wagon down in Kaka'ako in a business district? Oh, can I have your debit card? And you swipe your debit card over here. Of course. I mean, come on. What small business owner like a plate lunch wagon is going to pay the monies to set up a transaction type with Visa and debit cards? Now, this is what they're targeting. Restaurants, construction workers, open market vendors, they're all being targeted for tax evasion because they all deal with cash. And that's why cash has to be eliminated. Because they said, the Lingo administration says that they would generate about $1 billion more in lost revenues from taxes targeting these small businesses. Because, let's face it, a lot of the waiters and waitresses, they pocket their tip money, right? How many of you actually report the true amount of your tips? I mean, seriously. And a lot of restaurant workers, these mom and pop stores, they don't report every nickel and dime to the IRS. They probably pocket maybe 40, 50, 60% of their income in cash, which is lost revenue. Now, number 7, a national ID card leading to an international identification system. I've been reading this book. I sent away for it. It's called The Mark of the New World Order. And also I'm reading this book called Bankruptcy of Our Nation. Very interesting books. I got some of the information out for today, but I still haven't finished reading it. And it's real interesting reading. If you ever get a chance, you have to read this book. Bankruptcy of Our Nation. It's an eye-opener. Number 7, the national ID card. I spoke about it the last time, about a coming national ID card. This came out in the Honolulu Advertiser. Plan would read ban, scale back real ID law. And they want to introduce this new identification, and it's going to lead to a national ID card. It says the Bush administration struggled to implement the 2005 law, delaying the program repeatedly as states called it an unfunded mandate and private advocates warned it would create a de facto national ID. They're saying that this card would prevent against terrorism and travel documents. By the way, I just got a new passport. I applied for a passport because I was going to take a trip to Vancouver this past summer, which I never got to go. But how many of you have the new passports? 1, 2, 3, a few of you. You have a microchip in there. All of new passports have a microchip in there. Microchips will be the future, RFID microchips that will be implanted in the body. Let me read to you what this book says right here, from the Mark of the New World Order, about this concern about having microchip implants in humans. According to a recent ABC News article, there have been reports of other chips being implanted in patients' right hands. However, the chip also has been seen being implanted in the left arm or hand as well as other areas. It is often surmised that the 16 digits in the chip stand for the last digits 666. The Greek word charagma, which means about to cut or to insert, it says, charagma describes the piercing bite of a snake or Satan, which is akin to using a needle to place the device under your skin. This is a fascinating book that shows you all the technology that has been in place that's leading up to this mark of the beast. Now remember, the mark of the beast will not take place until a 3.5-year period in the tribulation time. In other words, after the church is taken out, 3.5 years after the rapture, Antichrist will step into the temple, declare himself to be God, and to be worshipped as God, which is the abomination of desolation. And he will cause, Revelation 13, all, small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead. Some people don't have a right hand. That no man can buy or sell save he who had the mark or the number of his name or the name of the beast. And it is 666. And that's why I believe we are so close to the coming of the Lord, the rapture of the church. One last thing. Last year, I used this chart, and I like to use charts because it gives you a kind of visual thing to what's been happening. And I hope you can read it, see it from the back. Put this. Now, from the time of creation with Adam and Eve right here to the time of Jesus, this is 4,000 years that have passed by. From the time of Jesus till we're about here, it's about 2,000 years, right? So a total of 6,000 years. Follow me? Now, we are rapidly reaching the population of planet Earth at 6.6 billion people on Earth. 6,000 years from time of creation to today, reaching almost 6.6 billion people. Now, throughout the Bible, there's what we call a 6 and 1 pattern. God created the heavens and the earth in 6 days, and on the 7th day he rested. He worked as a Hebrew slave for 6 years, on the 7th year he set him free.